Well, good morning, everyone. And once again, how are you? Hope you're having a great start to your day. And I want to say hello as usual. Let me see. I'm trying to find a picture here of a cell. And Carrie, Nebraska, you're up first today. Hope you're having a great start to your day. Len and Judy, Sandra, and Rosa, good morning. And John from Elgin, Illinois. Yvonne, how are you? And we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, Mary. And Debbie, Nativity, and Renee, Newfoundland, good morning. Carol, and Fran, Valcaron, I know where that is. Reem, how are you? Wendy from Markham. Al, boy, I haven't seen that name in a long time. Samuel, how are you? Frida, very rainy day. Yeah, here too in Sudbury. Joe, Nick, good morning to you from our staff. Debbie and Fran from Orangeville. Hello. Marianne. Oh, I could sing a song, Marianne. Jeanette, bonjour. Debbie, Sturgeon Falls. Suzanne, Tammy, Prince Edward Island. Beautiful. Jeanette, Lise, and Marilyn from Edmonton. Michelle, my belle. Barbara, Nova Scotia. Cindy, Francis Marie. John, good morning. From Lefroy. Where's Lefroy? Dorothy, Bernice, Joe, London. Joe and Maria. Don't want to forget you, Maria. Samora. Buenos dias. How are you? Patty, Kevin, Oshawa, Milika, Stouffville, Cindy. And you guys are great. You guys are great. Okay, a couple more and I will get going. Laurie and Ryan and Renee, another Renee. Kajatu. I probably murdered that. And Mike from Norland. Ho Hung, how are you? Sherry, Sydney, Ohio. Diane, another Diane. Sherry. I gotta sing Sherry. I love that song. Katharina, Darcy, and Brian. AJ, how are you? Carol, Moncton, New Brunswick. Jerry, my friend, from Nouveau Brunswick. Norma, Lorraine. And Andrea, Nouveau Brunswick. And Julie. You guys are so great. Crystal. Okay, let me get going because I'll never get started. And I want to just see if I can find, I've got my 19... I remember getting this in college. And for those who are listening on a podcast after, see, this is my... I'm trying to find a picture of the cell. I know it's in there. And I was just thinking about this. Let me just see if I can find something here. And, okay, maybe I better not, because I won't find it. I won't use this illustration this morning. But you know what I want to talk to you about is insulin resistance. Now, insulin resistance, or at the Martin Clinic, what we like to call it is high circulating insulin, okay? Now, a new study came out on insulin resistance, or high circulating insulin, that is very, very important with every chronic disease. Okay, so let me explain what, because at the end of the day, the metabolic reset is all about fixing insulin resistance or high circulating insulin. Why is that significant? Because, guys, it's the elephant in the room in every chronic disease. Cancer, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, 100% for sure, autoimmune diseases. The elephant in the room behind all of that is food. Now, I really get upset, okay? I didn't say I rarely get upset. I said I really get upset. When I like this morning on the private Facebook group, there's someone there. We love you guys and thank you for putting that up there because it's good for you to think, okay? I want you to think. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised, please. And don't be confused. Don't be surprised and don't be confused when people don't, professionals, medical doctors, dietitians, they don't even think about insulin. The only time they think about insulin is if you're a diabetic and then they got to put you on insulin. But they don't think about insulin resistance and high circulating insulin because medically they have been taught this. Okay, it's really important you understand this, guys. Medically, they have been taught this. You're not a diabetic until your blood sugar passes a certain mark. Okay? And they don't worry about diabetes unless your A1C and unless your blood glucose, fasting blood glucose, has hit a certain level. If it hasn't hit a certain level, they're not trained to think about it. But in nutrition, where I come from, insulin is almost everything. It's one of the three, okay? There's three seeds of a disease. Name the disease apart from infection, okay? Let's keep infection out of it. You get an infection, there could be some connotations to insulin, but I don't want to get into the weeds. If you have an infection, okay. But any chronic disease that I mentioned earlier, there's three root causes of all disease. One, insulin. And guys, listen to me. Insulin is food. Okay? Two, leaky gut. From your brain to your toes. Your microbiome, leaky gut, when you get stuff in your bloodstream that becomes systemic, that didn't belong there in the first place, that should have gone into the toilet, that's leaky gut. And it has big time connotations for autoimmune, even insulin resistance, and any chronic disease, because it can affect your heart. It can be a big factor in cancer because of candida and fungus. Anyway, okay? And then the third one is oxidation. Oxidation. It's aging. We're rusting out. Free radical damage. Okay? Those are the three seeds of disease. Now, I want to talk to you this morning about a new study that came out on insulin resistance. And I would love to scream it from the rooftops because it talks about insulin resistance and heart disease fascinating. Fascinating. And it gives us some more detail on how insulin resistance and heart disease are connected and what happens. Okay? Now, a little physiology. And it's all, almost always repetition. But there's going to be I'm going to put a little new twist in there this morning because I just want to go in a little bit deeper on insulin resistance. But you guys know this, but it bears repeating. Diabetes, like official, I am a diabetic, bloom, 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 with quotes. Diabetes is the last thing that happens. Not the first thing that happens. It's the last thing that happens. So don't wait till you're a diabetic. That's the problem in medicine. That's the problem with dietitians. Oh, just eat everything in moderation. Follow Canada's food guide and you'll be fine. No, you follow Canada's good food guide and you're going to be in nothing but trouble. Okay? I'm sorry. And Americans, pyramid, the food guide, is all upside down. Believe you me when I tell you that. Okay? So don't be confused. Don't be confused. If we were eating properly, we'd be in much better shape. 88% of the population have what we call some form of metabolic syndrome. What's that mean? What's that mean? What's that mean? It means that 88% of the population have insulin resistance. Their cells don't like insulin. It's the pesky neighbor that always comes knocking at your door. Oh, no, there they are again. What is insulin? Insulin is a hormone. What does it do? It's released from your beta cells and your pancreas. What is its primary function? To get rid of sugar and store it. You know that, right? You can't have sugar in your bloodstream. It can't stay there. It can't park there. It's an illegal parking. It must be parked in the Costco parking lot. Your liver and your muscles. Okay? That's what insulin does. So every time you eat, you need insulin. The problem with our diets in North America, they're getting all around the world now. The problem with our diets is it's carb loaded. We're eating on average 200 pounds of sugar a year. Your pancreas was never made for that. But your body, you are so fearfully and wonderfully made. Everything in your body will fight diabetes. It'll fight it. Because diabetes, listen, can I say something? Well, of course I can say it. Diabetes never ends well. By the time somebody becomes a diabetic, they have had insulin resistance for a long time. But because they've never been taught that, and it's not taught in medical schools, and it's not taught even to, in all due respect, to dietitians. They don't understand the physiology of insulin. You can't have sugar left unattended in your bloodstream. You can't. Your body says you can't do that. Insulin takes it, signals out, out, out. You can't stay because sugar destroys your blood vessels rapidly. So if I emptied out your 5 liters, we've talked about that. You can have 20 donuts. Don't ever do it, but you could. And within an hour or so, or less, your blood sugar is going to come back into a very tight range. Now, don't do it, because now you've secreted like a mountain load of insulin to get all the sugar out of your bloodstream. Okay? Are you following me? This is really important, because I want to show you a new study, but I got to show you how your body works like this. So the more carbs you eat, crappy carbs, the more insulin you need. The more insulin you need, the more your cells go, you know what? I'm so sick and tired of you. I don't want you around me anymore. That's what your cells do. But insulin's got a job to do, and it don't care whether you find it pesky or not. So your cells resist insulin, right? But insulin doesn't care, because it says, hey, I cannot allow sugar to stay in your bloodstream. So I'm coming around. As long as you insist on eating the way you're eating, I am going to drive you crazy. I'm going to come and I'm going to come, but your cells resist. This is what I want to talk to you about. That is an actual condition. It's called insulin resistance, or high circulating insulin. Not sugar. Okay? Understand? It has to do with sugar, but it's not sugar it's not your blood sugar I'm talking about. It's insulin resistance. And 88, listen to what I'm saying, 88%, 90, let's round it off, 90% of the population. So when you look at people, including children, 90% have insulin resistance. They're not diabetic, but they really are. No, okay. But for all intents and purposes, they're not diabetics. Quote, but they've had high circulating insulin for a long time. Someone becomes a diabetic. It's what, 50% of the population now? You know how I use the word the twin towers of diabesity? Friend, come with me to the mall. I always tell people that. Let's go to the mall. Go to your local mall and watch people. Use your eyeballs that God gave you and observe. What will you see? If you lived in my day, in the 1970s, okay, hey, I was born in 1952. Now use your math and you'll figure out how old I am. Okay? But if you came to the mall with me in the 1970s and then you came in 2022, there'd be a big difference. We have diabetes. True or false? Yes, we do. Medicine, they haven't caught up to what I'm talking about today. You go to your doctor, well, you're not a diabetic. Eat in moderation. Why don't you go to your plumber? for nutritional advice. You might as well. I hate to be negative, but it's almost like they don't know what insulin is, and they don't know what insulin resistance is, and they don't realize what that does inside the body. And it's because they're not reading, they're not studying nutrition. What I know today about insulin resistance, folks, let me tell you something. I never, ever, ever, ever stop learning. I don't. I read and I read and I read. Guys, I read everything I can get my hands on to keep updated. Science, folks, is always evolving. You know, oh, the science is settled. I hate that. They hide behind that. I can't stand that. Science isn't settled. Well, 2 + 2, mathematical science is settled. It's 4, and it'll never change, okay? But there, you know, in nutrition, listen, I have put, I don't know, thousands and thousands of hours. I probably spent 4,000 hours getting my PhD in nutrition. And it's every day I still study more. I'm fascinated. But listen, okay? I don't want to get off topic because I want to bring you the study. Like I promised, okay? So, diabetes, put it over there just for a minute in your mind, okay? What happens before you're officially, or someone is officially diagnosed as diabetes, is they develop insulin resistance, okay? So I think you got that, right? And what does insulin resistance do? Okay, and I don't want to get too complicated, but insulin resistance starts a process in the body. So 90%, look around, 90% of the, you can be skinny, by the way, too, and have insulin resistance. That's why when people tell me about the reset, by the way, the reset was created, please understand it, for your metabolic health. That's why we call it the metabolic reset. It's to get 90% of the population, if they would listen, to correct the problem of insulin resistance, because the whole idea is to fix insulin resistance, and it takes 30 days to fix it. And everybody has their theories. I know that. Everybody has their theories. And Dr. Martin, you know, he's just one of the many. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm one of the many. But guys, listen to me. I was a real doctor with real patients. Like hundreds of thousands, okay, over the years. And I developed a reset for people that were already diabetic. I knew they had insulin resistance a long time before that. But I said, I'm going to put you on a program. We're going to put your diabetes into remission. And then I started that program, eggs, meat, and cheese. That's not for everyone, is it, Doc? Well, 90%. And it's 100% if you just want to feel better and you feel good already. But it's to fix insulin resistance, to get rid of the cells going, you know what, insulin, I can't handle you. Get away, you bug me, and insulin's not going to go away. It won't. until you become a diabetic, and then insulin can't even knock on the door anymore. And then you got big time trouble. Okay, so are we on the same page? Now let me tell you what happens when insulin comes knocking at your door, because you insist on eating carbs all the time. Bread, pasta, rice, cereals, sugar, sweets, pastries, muffins, bagels, okay? Milk in the grocery store, juice. You insist on it. Like 90% of the population, well, more than that. They insist on it. Oh, I'm not a diabetic, doc. I can have my orange juice in the morning and my oats. I got to have my oatmeal. Because I'm not going to go to the bathroom without my oatmeal. Well, okay, if you insist. But you're going to secrete a lot of insulin to eat oatmeal. A lot. Okay? And you might not think about it because you're not feeling anything necessarily, but you are eating the wrong food. I'm sorry. When people tell you, well, you need carbs to survive, no, you don't. I'm not saying you'll never eat carbs, because if you're going to eat any fruits and vegetables, you're going to eat carbs. But when you have insulin resistance, something happens at the cellular level. This is what this study was so fascinating. It says that your mitochondria, you see, I wanted to show you a picture of the cell, but I couldn't find it. Anyway, I didn't want to draw it for you because you know my drawings. I flunked art. I majored in recess at school. Okay? Now, inside every cell in your body, you have a mitochondria. What is a mitochondria? It's a battery pack. It produces energy, ATP, when you eat. But if you develop insulin resistance, your mitochondria releases what they call ROS. It's an oxidative thing. And what that does, it signals insulin, okay, to get lost. To get lost. It increases insulin resistance even inside the cellular level. And so when you eat bad, even your mitochondria starts screaming. Now you don't feel that, maybe a little bit of lack of energy, but you're not getting a lot of symptoms about what's happening, okay? So what happens when insulin, it creates a problem in your blood vessels. It's the first place it happens. In the cell, and then secondly, in your blood vessel. You know what happens to your blood vessels? When you're insulin resistant, 90% of the population, according to this new study, says this. 90% of the population is walking around right now with sticky blood vessels. Sticky. See what happens? Insulin resistance starts a process within your blood vessels to make them sticky. And they have like a Velcro on them. Think of your blood vessels going up to your brain. Think of your blood vessels going to your heart. This is revolutionary, guys. Your blood vessel, this is how you start. Listen, Linda, listen. This is how atherosclerosis starts. Because insulin resistance creates a domino effect at the cells and then in your blood vessels to make them sticky. You don't want sticky blood vessels. You know, it's one of the reasons, okay? And I don't want to get too complicated, but let me say this. You know when they talk about cholesterol, okay? When they talk about cholesterol inside your blood vessels, ooh, where do you expect? What do you expect? Of course cholesterol's inside your blood vessels. It's the FedEx trucks. It's Amazon. It's Canada Post. It's the U.S. Postal Service. It is, you name it. In your blood vessels, of course. So when someone has a heart attack, they blame cholesterol. It's like blaming the police because they're at the crime scene. Of course cholesterol is there. But they got it upside down because the only time your blood vessels become sticky is when you're eating bad food. And your blood vessels, instead of being, nice and slippery, you want slippery blood vessels. I used to tell people in the office, take enough oil, like omega-3, you slide out of rooms. You're eating so much butter and oil. Because butter turns to oil, doesn't it? I said, well, that makes your blood vessels slippery, not sticky. That's what you want. So insulin resistance, one of the first things that happens is your blood vessels become sticky. And because we are looking for love in all the wrong places, like cholesterol. Oh, doc, oh, my LDL cholesterol is high. My doctor wants to put me on statin drugs. Oh, I know. And I'm not blaming you. But if the doctor knew about insulin resistance, they would say, we're going to change your diet. You're eating too many carbohydrates. You're a carboholic, like Dr. Martin says. My name is Tony, and I'm a carboholic. At least admit it. Now, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking to you, but I don't mean you, because you guys know better. You're in the 1%. Believe me when I tell you that. Believe me when I tell you that. Any physician, or any dietitian that would restrict the amount of eggs you eat in a week doesn't know what they're talking about. Because eggs make your blood vessels slippery. And they don't make you fat either. And they don't give you cholesterol. Well, yes, they do. They give you good cholesterol because all cholesterol is good. Cholesterol. You can't live without cholesterol. If the whole premise is to hammer down your cholesterol, and every day, 7 days a week, I get pushback on that. I don't care if I'm in a minority. It's not a popularity contest. We've been lied to. We've been duped. We've been duped. And I don't want you to be duped. This is so significant. It is so significant. What damage, happens to your blood vessels. When you eat wrong and your insulin is going up and your cells are resisting insulin, it damages your blood vessels. It makes them sticky. And you don't want sticky. You want slippery blood vessels. I had to take, I'm glad I don't have one of those watches that tell me to breathe. Because I stopped breathing there for about 30 minutes. But guys, I'm going to hammer this home until you get rid of me. I'm going to hammer this home. I'm going to hammer this home. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. And the truth will set you free. It gives you information, guys. And it's not that I want you to argue with people. Because you know what? I found over the years, is that some people, like Doc, why aren't you, invited? Because sometimes I get myself uninvited. Because, sometimes these seminars and they want me to speak. And then they listen to one of my podcasts and they say, well, now you're going against the grain, Doc. I'm sorry. I got to tell you the truth. And if you insist on eating carbohydrates and you want to have those crappy carbs of the list that I talked to you earlier, then you're in trouble. And my job, in my opinion, is to shout out like John the Baptist, crying in the wilderness. I don't care if I'm alone doing it. I'll do it. And I'll push back. Because the studies are confirming exactly what I've been saying for a long time. So, anyway. I hope you had fun today. I had a ball. Okay. Now, guys, tomorrow is a question and answer Thursday because Friday's Good Friday, and we're off on Good Friday. But I am going to be on Easter Monday. Okay? So I'm just telling our folks here, giving you a little heads up. Okay? So Friday off. Tomorrow, question and answer Thursday. Send in your questions, not too late. I love answering your questions. I really do. And question me. I got no problem with that. Okay? I want you to think. Use the brain that God gave you. Okay. Now, the private Facebook group, which is a wonderful group. I love it. We love it. We love you. Hopefully you love us. It's a pretty great group, isn't it? Lots of fun. Okay, we love having you on there, and thank you for coming on there, and thank you for joining. If you don't get our emails, then please sign up. Make sure we have your email address so we can send you more detail on studies. Okay? That's what we do, our emails. And if you can't watch this, or your friends or whatever, you can share this, by the way, on Facebook. But the other thing to do is to get them to listen and download the Doctor Is In podcast. Very popular podcast. And all of these Facebooks are made into podcasts. And if you have a smartphone, I don't know how smart the smartphone is, but smarter than me, because I don't know how to use them. You can listen to them, okay? I love podcasts, by the way. I do. And, okay? Now, we'll talk to you later, and we love you dearly. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much.